6:31, I'd entertain, or like to call this meeting of the Village Board to order. Clerk Waters, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Eder.
Here.
Trustee Enya. Trustee Loving-Jacobson.
Here.
Trustee Straw.
Here.
Trustee Taglia.
Here.
Trustee Wesley. And President Skaman.
Here. And so we do have a quorum present, and Trustee Straw is participating remotely within the reasons of our protocol. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session. Greg, to discuss what?
The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, or performance of specific employees of the village pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C1.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Motion by Trustee Loving-Jacobson, seconded by Trustee Eder. Clerk Waters, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Loving-Jacobson.
Yes.
Trustee Eder.
Yes.
Trustee Straw.
Yes.
Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
President Skaman.
Yes. All right. Thank you. We will see you in about 30 minutes. It's 7:22. I'd like to reconvene this meeting of the Village Board. Clerk Waters, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Eder.
Here.
Trustee Enya.
Here.
Trustee Loving-Jacobson.
Here.
Trustee Straw.
Here.
Trustee Taglia.
Here.
Trustee Wesley.
Here.
President Skaman.
Here. Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. We will be removing item S and item V. It's possible that either of those might come forward at a future board agenda, but they are not going to be heard this evening. Agenda, motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve minutes from the March 18, 2026 regular meeting of the Village Board. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Okay, motion by Trustee Eder, seconded by Trustee Loving-Jacobson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The minutes have been approved. Do we have any non-agenda? Oh, we do have one non-agenda public comment. If anyone else wishes to speak, then I would welcome that. Mr. Romade? Thank you.
Evening. My name is Mac Robinet. I live at 214 South Elmwood. I offer a summary of an all-in composting program. So all-in composting means no opt-out, no opt-in, no one owns a composting container. Everyone, that is anyone in the village, has access to a compost container. Everyone pays the same small fee. So my version of an all-in composting is different in that the small fee includes the costs of a maintenance and educational fund. It could be called an ME fund. A portion of the ME fund would be used to support a person with a passion for making the program not only succeed but to prosper. For example, a small fee of $6 a month per household would include a $200,000 ME fund. There are several benefits of composting, but here tonight I focus just on the costs. For the current composting program, we spend about $200 per household per year, at a total of about $500,000 a year. For all-in composting, we would spend about $70 per household per year, a total of about $0.8 per year for 11,000 households. So that current composting was for 3,000 households. So, however, all-in composting would be available to 20,000 households, that is anyone in the village. So the actual effective costs per household would actually be less than $70 per year. So according to the recent waste audit, about 37% of what we send to the landfill could be composting. So with all-in composting, we might actually reduce our landfill costs. So whatever you decide tonight, please consider that all-in composting would reduce more compostable material from the landfill, which will reduce emissions at a lower cost per household than the current program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Mr. Robinette? Mac, do you have any information to hand out on that? Do you have any information to hand out on the all-in composting? Any handouts or electronic?
He has a presentation. I can send it to you.
Can you send it to the whole board?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
May I turn this into the clerk?
No, just what we talked about.
Yeah. I'll send him your presentation, Mac, the one you gave to EEC. Yeah.
Yes, the binder, yeah. I just didn't know if you had it in electronic format or not.
Thank you, Mr. Romade. And Michael, now that you sat down, I'm sorry, did you want to do a non-agenda vote? Or your agenda item X, my apologies, we can, W, we'll be there pretty quickly. Thank you. Okay. If there's no other non-agenda public comment, then we do have a few amazing proclamations on our agenda this evening. The first, a motion to approve a proclamation recognizing International Transgender Day of Visibility, March 31st, 2026. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Leving-Jacobson and seconded by Trustee Wesley. Whereas Transgender Day of Visibility is observed each year on March 31st as a time to celebrate the lives, achievements, and contributions of transgender and gender-expansive individuals, while uplifting their visibility, dignity, and humanity within our communities. And whereas this day also serves as a call to action, acknowledging the progress made toward equality while recognizing the ongoing challenges, discrimination, and barriers that continue to impact transgender individuals across the nation, particularly for individuals who may not be able to safely live openly. And whereas this day recognizes the courage of transgender individuals who live authentically and openly, often in the face of adversity, and affirms their right to safety, respect, and full participation in civic, social, and economic life. And whereas we also acknowledge the courage it takes for people who navigate their identities privately for reasons of safety, circumstance, or personal readiness, affirming their inherent dignity, worth, and right to live authentically in their own time and in their own way. And whereas local advocacy organizations, including PFLAG and Opelga Plus, now Out with Purpose, play a vital role in supporting transgender individuals and their families, particularly families and individuals navigating visibility, identity, and belonging, by fostering community, providing education, and advancing equity and inclusion within Oak Park and beyond. And whereas transgender residents, families, and advocates and allies contribute profoundly to the strength and vibrancy of our municipality leaders, educators, artists, entrepreneurs, public servants, and neighbors whose talents and perspectives enrich every aspect of community life. And whereas the village of Oak Park has a responsibility to foster inclusive, safe, and welcoming environments where all people, inclusive of gender identity or expression, are treated with dignity, fairness, and respect, and where systems and policies do not require visibility to access safety or opportunity. And whereas uplifting transgender voices and affirming their lived experiences strengthens our shared commitment to justice, equity, and the fundamental belief that every individual deserves to be seen, heard, and valued. And whereas recognizing Transgender Day of Visibility reflects our collective dedication to building a community grounded in compassion, understanding, and unity, where diversity is embraced as a source of strength and resilience. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Vicki Skaman, President of the Village of Oak Park, and the Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim March 31st, 2026 as Transgender Day of Visibility within this community and encourage all residents to join in recognizing and celebrating the contributions and resilience of transgender and gender-expansive individuals. And be it therefore resolved not that the Village of Oak Park reaffirms its unwavering commitment to protecting the rights, safety, and dignity of transgender residents and to advancing policies, practices, and partnerships that promote inclusion and equity for all. And be it further resolved is that through this proclamation, we honor the visibility, strength, and contributions of transgender individuals today and recommit ourselves to the ongoing pursuit of justice, equality, and belonging for generations to come. Dated this day of March 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
And I do believe we have a couple of guests with us this evening. Sarah Corbin, and is it Vicki? I'm sorry? Lynn. Pleasure. Thank you.
So, I'm Sarah Corbin. I'm the president of the PFLAG Oak Park area, and this is...
I'm Len Griffith. I'm co-chair of the board of Out With Purpose.
And we just have just a very short statement, very short. Thank you to our community for prioritizing transgender rights and visibility. We are here today to be visible for individuals who may not yet feel safe or comfortable being visible, to represent safety and affirmation for our full community. We're lucky to be in a community with organizations and individuals that celebrate transgender and gender-expansive children and adults. We know from our history as a village that we have become a very safe and welcoming community. Individuals are moving here because of our affirmation, our affirmative environment. And so gratefully, thank you for making a public statement to support them. Okay.
Thank you for everything you do. We do have the proclamation.
Yeah.
And I don't know, does the board want to join me in a photo?
Come on up front,
Come on.
right?
Well, that's the clerk's office. Thank you very much for joining us. Oh, I'm good for the moment. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, thank you. And we have a motion to approve a proclamation recognizing April 2026 as Arab American Heritage Month in Oak Park, Illinois. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Loving-Jacobson and seconded by Trustee Eder. Arab American Heritage Month, March 24th, 2026. Whereas the United States of America is strengthened by the diversity of cultures, traditions, and perspectives that shape our shared civic life. And whereas Arab Americans represent a vibrant and diverse community whose heritage, faiths, cultures, and identities span numerous countries, languages, and lived experiences, reflecting both long-standing histories and more recent journeys to the United States. And whereas Arab Americans have made profound and lasting contributions to our nation and local communities through leadership in public service, education, medicine, businesses, entrepreneurship, science, technology, military service, law, arts and culture, philanthropy, and civic engagement. And whereas throughout Illinois and within the Village of Oak Park, Arab Americans, residents, families, educators, business owners, faith leaders, and community advocates have strengthened our neighborhoods, fostered economic vitality, enriched the social and cultural fabric of our community, and contributed to Oak Park's tradition of civic engagement, participatory governance, and community-led cultural expression. And whereas Arab American Heritage Month provides an opportunity to celebrate the traditions, languages, artistic expressions, cuisine, scholarship, and innovations that reflect the depth and diversity of Arab American heritage while honoring the generations who have contributed to the growth and prosperity of our nation. And whereas recognizing and celebrating Arab American Heritage Month promotes greater cultural understanding, encourages dialogue across communities, and reaffirms our shared commitment to dignity, inclusion, mutual respect, and equal opportunity for all residents, particularly at a time when fostering cross-cultural understanding and addressing bias is essential to building and sustaining inclusive and resilient communities. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we acknowledge and celebrate the achievements, resilience, and enduring contributions of Arab Americans, while also reaffirming our commitment to ensuring that Arab American residents feel safe, seen, and experience a true sense of belonging in our community. Now, therefore, I, Vicki Skaman, President of the Village of Oak Park and the Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Arab American Heritage Month and encourage all residents, community organizations, schools, and businesses to recognize and celebrate the many contributions of Arab Americans and to participate in activities that promote cultural awareness, education, unity, and community pride, and to uplift the voices and experiences of Arab Americans in meaningful and lasting ways. Dated this day, March 24th of 2026. Motion, or all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And Faisal and Dima?
Good evening. My name is Dima Ali. I am very proud Arab American and also very proud Oak Parker. And I stand before you tonight with my heart full of joy. And on behalf of the Arab American community, I want to express my deepest and most sincere gratitude to the Oak Park Village Trustees. This moment is incredibly personal to me. About 8 years ago, I started this work, and there were so many obstacles. But with the help of all of you sitting here, we were able to overcome them. I'm overwhelmed by joy and pride and happiness. We are honored to call Oak Park our home, and I am deeply moved by our partnership in making this community a place where everybody and every heritage is embraced. We always been told, go home, you don't belong. And to that I say, this is home and we belong. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dima. Good evening, Assalamu alaikum, or peace be upon you. My name is Faisal Al-Labsi. It's great to see you all again. I am proud to stand here today as both as an Arab American and an Oak Parker. This moment is meaningful. The Arab American community is being invited into this space for formal recognition, not as guests, but as neighbors, colleagues, parents, and friends who have long been part of the fabric of Oak Park. Arab American Heritage Month is a time to celebrate the richness of our cultures, languages, and histories. but also to reflect on the shared values that connect us: education, family, resilience, and a deep commitment to community. Our values very much align with what make Oak Park the place we can call home. Arab Americans have also contributed to the United States in countless ways, as educators, professionals in healthcare and other sectors, in business owners, public servants, artists, and innovators. We help strengthen our economy, enrich our culture, and serve communities across the country. We are proud of our heritage, and we are equally proud to be Oak Parkers. Our stories, our contributions, our presence are part of this community's story. Thank you to the village for this recognition and for taking this important step toward inclusion. Also, we appreciate the ongoing efforts to recognize the celebration that's going to be happening in April. We look forward to continuing to contribute to a community where everyone feels seen, safe, valued, and at home. Thank you.
Okay, I'll invite my colleagues for another photo op. You all are far more photogenic than I am. Who'd like to hold this? We can put two. You wanna hold one up by either side? One more, we got one more kiss.
Drop the ball.
Okay. All right, thank you again for joining us. Entertain a motion to approve items D, E, and F. Proclamation recognizing National Community Development Week, April 6th to 12th of 2026. Proclamation honoring Dr. Percy L. Julian Day, April 11th of 2026. And a motion to approve a proclamation recognizing National Public Health Week, April 6th to 12th. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Enya and seconded by Trustee Wesley.
I don't know
Thank
why
you.
every time I lean forward, my voice like goes away. Sorry.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I took those as a block. You'll note that all three are in the month of April. I know that as a community, we'll work to celebrate all of them on Community Development Week. I think we're 2 or 3 years running on the videos for the grants that go out from our Community Development Citizens Advisory Commission and that department. So please look forward to that, as well as our Public Health Department. And Percy Julian, or Dr. Percy L. Julian Day is his, April 11th is Dr. Percy L. Julian's birthday. Trustee Enya?
Yeah, we didn't do a resolution this time around. We had just done one previously a few weeks ago for recognizing the family and the legacy of the Julians, but just wanted to always make sure that we are lifting up a pillar in our community, someone who, stood through so much adversity. His family stood through so much adversity and still, in the face of all that, continued to push forward and create an amazing legacy for not just our Black community, but just Oak Parkers in general. I think if you think about all of the innovations, and that's what I would challenge you all with doing today or tonight. It's just going back home. Go on the Google and search the Julian family. Start with Percy. Go to his wife Anna. Go to the son Percy Julian Jr. Go through the whole family. Go look up Faith, and you will be amazed at what a family can accomplish with some determination and when faced with adversity. And that is what I look at when I see Oak Parkers. I see the exact same thing. People who rise to the challenge and never settle for just ordinary. We're a community of extraordinary individuals, and I see it every day, from the youngest of us to the oldest of us. We are just a really awesome community, and I'm happy to say that the Julian legacy continues to live on through Faith, and that we are still praying for you and just wishing the very best for her and the family. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing the personal message. Trustee Wesley.
I can't possibly follow that, Trustee Enya, but I do want to mention that the Nova PBS documentary, Forgotten Genius, is amazing about Dr. Julian. And so anyone who's listening to this who hasn't seen it, absolutely, you should go and find it. You can just Google it. It'll pop right up. You can watch it right there.
Thank you. And then we'll continue to celebrate throughout the month of April. Okay. Appreciate that. A village manager's report. Village Manager Jackson.
Yes, President Skaman, trustee members, we have some information to share about proposed language modification concerning item R, approval of the board goals on the consent agenda. So Deputy Village Manager Lisa Shelley is going to share our recommended language modifications, and they're really slight. And so we just want to present them and have them incorporated into what you actually approve. Lisa.
Thank you.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Lisa Shelley, Deputy Village Manager. So for the record, we have two changes. One is upfront under the values that was discussed at your last meeting. It will now read, "We evolve to meet the needs and desires of the community." And that's in place of very similar language, like Manager Jackson said, it's slight change, which talks about recognizing our changing demographics to meet those needs that I just read. That language instead is moving back later into the document under the aging incorporation that we talked about, and I'll read that one next. So the second change is on page 11 of the document under Community Health and Safety, strengthening Oak Park's public health network. There was discussion about contacting the chair of the Aging and Communities Commission and drafting some language. So that language will now read for G, recognize and respond to Oak Park's changing demographics by developing and implementing an age-friendly strategic plan that moves beyond incremental change to address ageism and advance dementia-friendly, intergenerational, and livability-centered practices across village policies, services, and systems. So that's our recommended language for the change. I will just add, the chair did add some additional language, but we believe that can be incorporated into the strategic plan. And then even later today was maybe rethinking, instead of an age-friendly strategic plan, calling it a liability-friendly strategic plan. But I do think this language that was developed first by the commission definitely is on point to what was discussed with the board. So I can read that again, but those are the two changes since the posting.
Thank you for putting that additional effort in, and I did hear from the chair, appreciate the email that he sent, and working with him in noting that, as he does in his email, the impacts of our aging population affect all of the following: community affordability, community health and safety, racial equity, vibrant, diverse, connected neighborhood, sustainability and resilience, and economic vitality. And I just want to let that sink in, that it infiltrates into all of our board goals. Any further comments? Yes.
I just want to note that I did like the aspect of noting that the community is changing, and which feels removed from the updated sentence. And only from the perspective of, I think Oak Park is a place that gets too comfortable with thinking that it's staying the same, and it's not. And so I like the signal of, we recognize that Oak Park is changing, and we are also evolving to meet those changes as they come. But I'm fine.
Then are you suggesting we evolve to meet the changing needs and desires of the community?
Yeah, I could work with that, though I wouldn't vote against the current language. I just want to put that on the record.
Okay, so currently reads, we evolve to meet the needs and desires of the community.
What's being proposed is we evolve, potentially proposed, we evolve to meet the changing needs and desires of the community, just adding that one.
Or the needs and desires of the changing community, either or.
I'm fine with any, I mean, you could also just,
Changing community. The latter?
the latter.
So then, just for the record, we evolve to meet the needs and desires of the changing community. Okay. And then this way, the item then can stay on consent if there is no further discussion, and it would be approved along with your other items.
Thank you.
I'll just say I look forward to the prioritization exercise that we'll be going through at a future reimagining government meeting.
I'm sure we'll have a blast.
I am also looking forward to that, Derek.
We know you are. Okay,
Yes, you should know that.
fair enough. Okay. And so that's on the village manager's report, so that should be so noted then in the item on the consent agenda. The minor change of adding is a ever-changing community, okay? And village board committees. Did you have more in the village manager's report? Okay, thank you. And so for village board committees, do we have any updates?
So for iGov, we met this week, and forthcoming very soon will be an updated website with our, vision and mission statement, as well as a page on how to run for government or how to run for office locally. And then at our meeting this past week, we heard from the Community Fridge Project, and they put out an ask for some financial investment from all of the taxing bodies. And I will speak for Trustee Taglia and myself that we agreed that we should all be equally supporting this project. It's being successful and it's growing, and they have the capacity to grow. So I think we will work to bring that forward pretty soon.
Thank you.
Miss anything?
No, it's a good project, and it's, I think it fills a need in our village, and I support it. We both support it, and it's a very small ask, $2,500 for each taxing body. It's totally doable, and it's difficult for some of these other ones to cut through the red tape. I think we have a much better situation here where we can put a proposal in and get hopefully a positive response. So, thank you.
Thank you. So iGov, 2 members of each of our governing boards, the village, the township, park district, library, D97 and D200, meet one Saturday of every month. And so thank you for working to prepare for a how to run for office forum for the community and for the joint work that you're doing to advance our overall community goals. And so this in April, or first week of April, those of us who were just reelected last year will have our 1-year anniversary, and that immediately launches 1 year from an election to be. So thank you. Any other committee reports? Okay. So Citizen Commission vacancies. Anyone interested in serving on a village board or commission can please email Clerk Waters at clerk@oak-park.us. And then I would entertain a motion to consent to the village president my appointments of Clerk Waters, do you want to read these off, or I can easily do so either?
If you don't mind reading them off, please.
No worries. A motion, so for Building Codes Advisory Commission, Perry Agarwal, appoint as Commissioner. Community Development Citizens Advisory Committee, we're reappointing Ann K. France, Ermi Sengupta, and Karen Schneller. And then a regular appointment to our Police Pension Board, Dennis Marani and Robert Planick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And thank you to all serving on our village boards and commissions. Congratulations to Perry. Yeah, I know you'll do a great job. And moving to our consent agenda, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, having removed item S. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Trustee Wesley and seconded by Trustee Eder. Clerk Waters, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Eder?
Yes.
Trustee Wesley?
Yes.
Trustee Enya? Yes. Trustee Levin-Jacobson?
Yes.
Trustee Straw?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
And President Skaman.
Yes. Thank you. The consent agenda has been approved. Regular agenda. We first up is a presentation and resolution authorizing. Oh no, we have removed item V.
Yes.
From the agenda. We're likely to see that on a very soon upcoming agenda. A resolution, item W, a resolution approving the renewal of the independent contractor agreement with Lakeshore Recycling Systems LLC for municipal trash, recycling, food scrap, yard waste, household hazard waste, and electronics collection for a 2-year term in amount not to exceed $3,800,000 for 2027 and authorizing its execution. Motion, please.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Motion by Trustee Wesley and seconded by Trustee Levin-Jacobson. I do believe this is the item we have a public comment. Would you like to come down now? Thank you for joining us, Michael.
Hello, folks. I'd just like to make a comment encouraging you to review the renewal of this contract. In short, I really hate the LRS service as compared to the prior waste management service. If I could just kind of give a few examples here. Every garbage day on Friday, I walk through the alley to pick up garbage that was left behind, smashed cans, bottles, stray paper. My garbage can is inexplicably moved down the street every couple months. I have it on camera. They pick it up and move it a few houses down. I've had my garbage can disappear where it was picked up and thrown into the thing, into the thing to be crushed, the truck to be crushed. I have had repeated missed pickups of bulk and yard waste collection, properly stickered. And when I call customer service, it's long hold times, 45 minutes plus. And I've even been told that they don't handle customer service for Oak Park to call the village and then have to call back and wait to get someone who actually knows that. If I could just give one illustrative story. Across the alley, we had a house that was sold, and an old couch was put into the alley. It was not stickered, so it was not picked up. So I took 2 of my bulk stickers, put it on the couch. During garbage day, they took the cushion that I had put the stickers on and left the entire rest of the couch. It took me 3 weeks of calling to get them to come pick it up. So I just want to express my dissatisfaction with this current contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Village Manager Jackson.
Yes, thank you, President Skaman. Rob Sproul, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Rob Sproul, Public Works Director. With us tonight, I have Erica Helms, our Environmental Services Manager, as well as representatives from LRS, who you're familiar with from our meeting in January. So tonight, tonight is a proposed resolution to execute a renewal of the independent contractor agreement with LRS as it relates to the municipal refuse program. The 5-year agreement that was signed in 2021 has an executable renewal with an open term of 1 to 3 years. So staff is making a recommendation of renewing the term for 2 years per the contract. And that is tied to our ability to reevaluate the contract in a time frame that supports our current relationship with our regional disposal project, sorry. It's West Cook Suburban Regional Disposal Project. They are the ones who are responsible for taking all of our waste. LRS's primary responsibility is the collection of it. They deliver it to that location. That relationship is up for renewal in 2028, and we think that that's an excellent time to review our current hauling contract because there may be opportunities at that time to step away from that regional hauling contract and actually sign with disposal provided by a hauler at that time that may actually be advantageous for the village. So this is a follow-up conversation from one that we had in early January, where LRS was here to speak with the board, provide some provide an opportunity to hear comments from the board, answer any questions that were presented by the board as it relates to the contract. Since that time, they have taken that information and made a recommendation for renewal. That letter was included in the documents, and it does include a number of items that were outlined in an effort to try to address some of the questions and concerns brought up by the board, as well as address goals and priorities that staff have experienced or have an understanding of wanting to push forward in the development of board goals and other priorities. So those, well, before I even get there, there were also a number of questions that were brought up or questions that were brought up over the last few days as it relates to contract cost and then also service metrics. And so that's the information that you got today. We've been working on this information, presented it here. We've since attached it to the board item as well, so it is available to the public already at this time, my understanding. But what you have is 2 tables there that kind of try to address some of the questions and concerns that were brought up by the board. The bottom one is the data for service metrics over the last 3 years of waste management, with the half year shared between Waste Management and LRS, and then LRS's numbers through 2025. The table at the top is a comparison of the costs based on if the village has chosen to stick with the existing provider of waste management with this contract rather than move to LRS. An evaluation of how the costs would have changed over time associated with the costs that residents would be paying for service as of today with the cost adjustments that were included with the contract over time. And so the resident cost waste management is a calculation of what the cost would be for residents versus what they are today and over the last 5 years associated with LRS. Just to clarify, when we see those percentages, those are percentage increases that residents would have been paying over time to waste management as it relates to LRS, and the actual savings in numbers compared year over year and then tabulated together at the bottom. This does not include the leaf credit that was given to residents in 2024, sorry, that would be in addition to this, but that may have occurred in either case, so I didn't include that number specifically. So that's just some information as it relates to that, but as we kind of move forward, staff is recommending a 2-year renewal to line us up with our RDP contract to give us the opportunity to potentially bid that work as part of an upcoming waste hauling contract, waste collection and hauling contract. But in an effort to close out this contract through the next 2 years, the LRS has put forth a number of items to try to address some of the questions and concerns that have been brought up by the board. One of them, and there's a list in the agenda item under the background, and I'll just go through them quickly. an extension of the fall leaf collection program from 6 to 8 weeks with no additional cost. So an expansion of the existing program under the same cost terms as presented within the contract, so an additional 2 weeks for free. They've agreed to kind of end the leaf, or I should say the yard waste collection season, which has historically ran from April to November, and create that collection opportunity for all residents rather than just compost residents over the winter. So anybody during the winter season, if they want to put out compost material or yard waste, can do so with green stickers without having to pay a one-time fee for that special collection. So it's an expansion of that program service to all residents throughout the year. They've also assigned an LRS representative dedicated to managing our 311 waste collection items. So they've actually stood up service within our own 311 system and are addressing concerns directly as they come through the system rather than having to be relayed or communicated through staff. And they're able to directly communicate with residents through that system and staff to address concerns that are there rather than residents either having to go to LRS or the village and then being redirected one way or the other. So whether the requests come in directly through LRS or whether they come to the village, they have direct access to that in live data and can address those concerns similar to if they're coming in through their own system. And that's actually been working out really great. I think if you had any questions about that, Erica could speak to that. But we've stood that up for about a month so far. The 5th of this month. And one of the nice benefits of that is that, just kind of as a side note, that program was built through our partner MGP with the GIS consortium. And so that 311 program and its kind of base is available to all of the partner communities that are in the GIS consortium and offers an opportunity then for any other communities that actually has a relationship with LRS or wants to leverage it for one of their other contractors would be able to do that for free. Just kind of a side benefit of our GIS consortium membership there. They've also committed to a pilot program of smaller 32-gallon containers. One of the pinch points we know for residents moving to composting is just the cost of either adding that significant cost of the composting without some sort of benefit or reduction in cost in terms of the landfill waste that they would continue to have to pay. And so we are exploring 32-gallon container options that would have a reduced cost to residents. And so trying to incentivize either residents to jump on board with a smaller compost container at a reduced cost, or if they find that they can utilize their compost container, they may be able to transition down to a smaller landfill container and pay a reduced cost for landfill costs to kind of offset that composting cost. So we committed to starting with 100 containers, but even talking to George and LRS, I think if we see a lot of positive uptake on that program and it does spur more transition into composting, that they are open to expanding it if they can stand up the capacity for the production of those containers. So it's an expansion of the existing program to try to incentivize that. They're going to continue to commit to utilize the region's only electric waste hauling truck in our community every day to support our current composting route. And then the last thing that we were able to actually get confirmation on today relates to the RDP. So currently, right, LRS collects our waste and they need to take it to a transfer station down in Stickney in order to meet our RDP requirements. That's where our waste needs to go. They asked if there was a potential possibility for them to do a like tonnage agreement where our waste, rather than having to go all the way down to Stickney, would be able to go to their transfer station in Maywood, and a community that they service closer to that transfer station, their waste would be able to go there, thereby saving on the gas and fuel charges associated with both of those communities by sending that waste to a much closer location. And if we were able to get that agreement in place with the RDP, they committed to holding rates flat for next year. And then just for the second year, going with a CPI adjustment with a small raise to the floor from 2.5% to 3%. We were able to get a commitment in an understanding with the RDP today that they would be open to and accepting of that. So if this we're able to go forward, we would see another year where we would be able to hold rates flat for residents associated with the waste hauling contract. So we're very positive, very excited about that. And it really, in addition to the cost savings associated with it, has real sustainability savings because we are really shortening the travel time for those large garbage trucks on the street, which equates, I think, to LRS did a calculation of like 64 tons per year there as well. Of emissions. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Lots of stuff there. So I think happy to answer kind of any questions that the board has as it relates to any aspect of the program. I think LRS, in good faith, really tried to address concerns and continues to try to work in a positive direction with the contract. George is here today. I think he'd be happy to answer any questions, but I know he got his chance at the microphone last meeting. So unless you guys really feel like you want to talk to him, I told him he would probably just be in support in the audience. But the only other things I would kind of reiterate is, the numbers kind of speak for themselves in terms of the metrics. I'm not really going to try to say, one way or another there. We didn't do any statistical analysis on them, but I would say, similar to what we've kind of said in the past, is that we don't really see in terms of the numbers a significant difference in terms of the customer service associated or the quality of service between waste management and LRS across the community. And as part of our residential waste survey that we completed with our characterization study earlier this year, we did do a survey of the community. It was the most successful survey that we've done on the Engage Oak Park platform with over 1,100 responses. And while, again, it's not any sort of statistical analysis, some of the questions did very much line up with data that we do know about the community. So we have a lot of faith in the information that was presented there. And 89% of the community says that they approve of LRS's service. Right, so it wasn't a survey that was about that. It was about how they manage their waste in their home. But we used it as an opportunity to just ask a question about how people felt about the quality of their waste service. And again, the number speaks for itself there. 89% of the community feels satisfied with the service that they're getting. So I think with that's a lot of talking. I think we're happy to answer kind of any questions or provide any feedback on anything that's been kind of presented tonight at this point. Or you could just take the roll.
Yeah, right. Derek did hand out the cookies before 8 p.m., so I don't have any additional incentives. Yes. All right, does anyone have any questions or comments? Who'd like to start us off, because I know they exist.
Okay. Hey, Rob, appreciate the recap there and the summary on where we are. It's very interesting. To start with the elephant in the room, right? 89% of folks who answered the survey approve of the services. When I look at the metrics provided here, they are mostly lower than the equivalent metrics when Waste Management was our hauler. Yet there is a very loud, I don't want to call it shouting, but there's definitely a very loud voice coming from the village of dissatisfaction. And so just trying to square that circle, I think is difficult for me when it comes to like just doing a renewal without bidding. When we hear from so many people who are dissatisfied with the service, even though the numbers, align with, a village that is pretty much satisfied with the service. So it's just, I'm trying to work through that. That's my thing, not your thing. With the metrics that you provided, though, I'm curious, was 2025, is that a full year's worth of metrics? Yes. Okay, because everything is pretty much chopped in half. And so that's where my curiosity from that comes from. Do we know how we managed to manage down all of the kind of the negative aspects to this in half in a year? I'm curious if there were extraordinary circumstances that took place or anything like that.
I mean, I don't have any answer for exactly why, but I think that we've been developing systems together with LRS along the way to improve things and communicate better. So I think that we do see that in those numbers. But yeah, I think when we started the 311 system this year, but that we just launched that together recently. So I don't think that really like siphoned anything out from what they would normally be getting. But
Okay.
yeah, I think we've been trying to problem solve along the way. So.
Okay. My skeptical mind, and I believe the numbers, but my skeptical mind comes in, when I've seen this sort of thing before, it's like, oh, okay, we're coming up for renewal, like double the amount of people on the contract, right, to make the numbers better before, you come before the renewal body, right? Like I've been there as a consultant. So that's the thing that pops in my head, and I wonder if what we're seeing here in 2025, if it doesn't go back up to 2024 numbers, if we vote to do a renewal tonight.
We also tracked through the 311 system too, so I have full reports from there to see if that's capturing
Yeah.
going down or if it's going up. Yeah, but
Yeah, no, and I believe the numbers, right? I think the numbers are real. I'm not questioning them. Maybe the subtext there is I'm wondering about the amount of resources devoted to our account in 2025 versus the previous years, and whether or not that increased to reduce this, which I say is good. But then the question is, will that, if those resources did increase to manage this down, will they stay in place?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I couldn't speak to that, except that, like, operationally, I think that's a pretty, like, it would be a difficult lift, right? I don't know if it'd be in their interest to all of a sudden try to decide to throw twice as many trucks into town. It's a little different with consulting and hours, right, than
Fair.
standing up garbage trucks and drivers and things like that. So
Yeah, if it's physical versus atoms versus bits, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's a little bit, yeah. No, I totally hear you on that. Okay. The other thing I was hoping to see was not the same leaf collection program, but alternatives to that leaf collection program, such that they existed, and any associated costs with that. That is something that we continue to hear from folks in the village. I am not interested in going back to the previous leaf collection program. I don't think leaves in the street are safe, or I don't think they provide a good service to the village. However, utilize the parkway to hold the leaves while we systematically, retrieve them, something that I would, if that is such a thing like that exists, it would be something I would be interested in hearing about and understanding the cost of.
I think, I guess my perspective on that would be if we could still have that conversation with this hauler or a different hauler moving forward. So that's a big, it's a big variable to try to put into like a renewal conversation. And so I think that LRS would be happy to have a conversation just like they did last time around, if that was something that the village board was really interested in pursuing. I think we would rather, though, try to kind of separate those two conversations and take them one at a time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can still have that conversation if that's the direction that the board wants to go, regardless of the decisions that's made tonight. I don't think one's tied, they need to be tied together.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. The last thing I have is, do we have any SLAs around customer service requests put into LRS? Like if I'm calling in and I've got like a broken cart, do they have 72 hours to get back to me, or 24 hours, or do we have anything like that in place?
Do we have standards for them?
Yes.
I don't know if the contract has any specifics.
Okay, 5 business days. Got it. And then and I've never called in a request. Do you guys give a ticket number to the person that calls in? Yeah, you've got a ticket number. Okay. Okay.
I'm emailing right now.
And the 311 system also, the new 311 system generates ticketing and automatic email response system too. So that's, yeah, it's one of the nice benefits of it. So residents automatically get feedback, and anytime the status changes on the work order, they're getting updates. So it really does give us this new tool internally, even beyond what we're doing with LRS, but a lot more engagement directly with the residents as we work through work orders.
Got it. Okay. The last question I have on this is, does LRS proactively, and I think we might have asked this last time, I can't recall, we asked a lot of questions at the last meeting. Does LRS proactively replace damaged carts as they see them?
So I think that's something, we did talk a little bit about it, and they have committed to really stand up more proactive replacement, utilizing their drivers, and then I think even, do you want to come up? Might as well. But I think the answer is yes. I mean, that was something that we clearly heard from the board, and we hear from residents with our kind of aging fleet of carts that they're needing more attention. And so I don't know, George, if you want to talk just briefly.
Thanks again for the opportunity to speak tonight. So, you know, one of the things that when we had the original changeover from Waste Management to LRS, part of that was switching, the big thing was to switch carts, and that would have been a really big inconvenience to the residents. So, you know, the decision was made to leave those carts there working with the village. So what we've talked about is with the new app, you know, actually our drivers can interact with the village's, you know, the new software. So the objective that we have, especially when now that the season is kind of over with the snow, hopefully, that then the drivers would start to use that app, and then we would put those work orders. So let's say it's basically the way that that app works is I don't even need your address anymore because we can geolocate with the photo. So if I'm in your alley and I'm a driver, historically in the past, the challenge was like, you know, I'm driving down the alley. I don't know your address because maybe it's not in the garage. So to proactively report that sometimes becomes a challenge because you're trying to tell the block run, you know, where it's at. So now we're saying, well, we can take a photo using the new app, and the driver who comes to replace the cart can actually find where it is based off of the location. And so that's the objective that we have for this summer, is to replace and fix, you know, my goal is 1,000 carts. You know, and then the other parts regarding customer service. You know, I think that the objective that we have is to really utilize this new software so that there is transparency. You know, a year ago or so, when we made the adjustment, you know, part of it was just really the personnel that was assigned to the community, and we made a shift when I moved into the role as area leader to get you a person that really understood the needs of the community better. So they would not change. That person would not change. If we were to be so lucky to renew the agreement, it would not be something that, you know, I'm even would be okay if you said, hey, if you meet this number, then the contract is canceled. You know, I've put my words on that many times, you know, so I feel confident that the service level that you're going to get will be superior than maybe previously. But I do think that this technology is something that I'm very, very excited about, because I think it's going to help to, you know, if you have a resident that's frustrated with not getting that couch picked up as he should, ideally he would be able to take a picture of it and report it, and then it goes right to our dispatcher at our office, and then it gets handled. So no phone calls, no nothing. It's just handled, and you can see when it's actually closed out, because the direction is we should be taking a photo and uploading it back. So that place where that couch was, there should be an empty alley afterwards.
Got it.
You updated through that video process, like, hey, now you're sent in this picture, you got a day before this guy gets out, or will there at least be like a, hey, this is where you are in the queue?
So this, there are the opportunity to add customer comments in there. So I think we could look at that. It gives automatic, so like when somebody puts in a request, they get a positive notification, your request has been put into the system, here's your work order number. When it gets assigned, so that means that like somebody viewed it and verified what it is and that it's correct and that it's going to move forward, they get another notification that, hey, your work order has been assigned. And there is an opportunity at every one of those stages to put in customer comments, and we are trying to really push staff to kind of provide more and more comments through that process. So we can make that a priority, and then when it gets completed, it also gets comments, and then close is actually a separate step because we want somebody to verify that what completed means is actually completed. Mm-hmm. And then you actually can't close the request now unless you put in customer comments. closing out, so explaining, you know, whatever the next steps are or whatever's been done and stuff like that. So it really is trying to kind of provide a lot more transparency and accountability through the process, so residents can follow along. And then there's contact information. If you want to call and ask us what's going on, here's the number. Call the number.
Awesome. So is this our software or LRS's?
This is our software.
Oh, sweet.
So this is the same system that we're using for all of our other public works requests as well.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they were nice enough when we said, would you live in our system, so that we're not kind of like taking this stuff in and then sending it to you. Can you be there and just respond? And they said, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it out.
Oh.
So they're now in the system. They bought an ArcGIS license because that's what this is built out of.
Okay.
AGOL, and they're up in there every day now, watching those things populate and addressing them as they come into the system.
Nice, nice. Did you run any of this through CISC? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alvin presented all of the 311 report. This is the same. This is the report and issue tool that we have on the website.
Ah, okay.
So it's the same tool, but we were able to leverage it with this contractor to live right in our system and address those concerns directly. So
nice, love it. One, I love the use of technology. That's amazing. Two, I love your adherence to service management best practices. That's also awesome. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. And then Jim.
And then Jim. Okay. Thank you. This is great. So I guess, yeah, the other elephant in the room is, it's either we renew or we go out to bid, right? And so my first question is, I know that Waste Management was the previous vendor. Are there any other vendors, or is it really just these two, like, that could potentially take over this contract?
I mean, I would actually probably defer to George, but I know you won't believe necessarily what George says. But I mean, Waste Management and LRS are definitely the two biggest players in the game. Okay. There are some other firms out there that are servicing other suburban communities, like Republic, Groot. I mean, you see their names pop up here and there. They were the only two contractors that bid the contract last time around, and you can see the cost, differential that's there. So. There is the potential. I think that we are a challenging community with our alley system, as opposed to a lot of communities that have like driveway, street side service. So that can be challenging for some haulers. And then there's other when we start talking about some of the extra programs that we offer in terms of like the household hazardous waste, the electronics pickup. Our expectations around composting, like we have a lot of programming that we want to offer, and there may be some other haulers that would be interested in bidding, but they may not be able to provide all of those services. So if we did go to bid and the board, this is a conversation we'd have to have with the board about what is a must-have, what is a nice-to-have, and we could maybe open up the pool of bidders more if the board is open to. That's a nice to have as opposed to a must have, where I'm just saying we let some people bid, not on everything, right? So I think though, but some of those things like the household hazardous waste in particular, I know is a challenging one. Leaf pickup models, depending on where the board goes, can be challenging for some haulers. So I would be hopeful that we would get some more interest, but historically, we had a lot of people attend the meeting, but the pre-bid meeting, but only to provide bids at the time.
At the time, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's helpful to know. And this is before I joined the board, but if I remember, a reason for switching was, again, Waste Management, the bid was much higher than what even we paid them the previous contract, right?
So, yeah, I mean, Waste Management was in the community for about 25 years on a no-bid contract. Yeah. And then, so we went to bid in 2021, and you can actually see the cost difference there. The numbers for 2022, that's the difference. So, I mean, Waste Management proposed a significant cost increase over their previous numbers, but also significantly over LRS's numbers. So, yeah, at the time, the board and the EEC and the other commissions that we brought it to chose to maintain or to go with LRS so that we could maintain the cost at a very similar rate. So, and you can see as you look at the table that, I mean, we're paying now with LRS less than we would have been paying in the first year of the contract with Waste Management if we had stayed with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I see that. Yeah, I'm kind of curious if, I know one thing that is different is the leaf collection. Is there anything that's changed between like the previous renewal and now that would potentially impact, you know, if we did go out to bid? What, you know, is there anything that, I'm trying to suss out what kind of bids could we expect to get, right? If Waste Management comes back, if we do go out to bid and we do end up getting these two, would we expect anything substantially to be different, or would we see these things kind of shaking out similarly?
I mean, I think staff's intent would be to present a primary bid similar to the existing service that the village has. But there are a couple things that have happened over the last few years with our partnership with LRS that, you know, we kind of get the benefit of getting for free. That if we wanted those things, you know, we would have to put them into a bid, right? And then they're kind of being, whether they're priced or not, they're still being incorporated into the overall cost. Things like the e-waste pickup program that we've started to run the last 2 years, or I'm sorry, the drop-offs. So LRS just partnered with us on that for free. They don't charge us anything for those community pickup days, and we're running 2 of those a year. We've expanded the compost drop-off locations across the community at no additional cost. You know, when we talk about the customer service and integrating into our system, I mean, if we're going to ask them to dedicate a staff member and live in the system, that may or may not end up, you know, in a price. So, yeah, the partnership on the waste study. You know, so there are some things that we've been able to do with LRS over the last 5 years that, you know, may or may not end up in a pricing. But we would be asking for those things, right? Because the community has come to expect them.
Right.
So, you know, it just would then depend on where the numbers would come in.
Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. I am curious about, you know, just hearing the public comment about the 45-minute wait time, and then I understand there's a 311 service, and that is seems like an improvement. Do we have any plan? I mean, what do we do about the 45-minute wait time? Is that something we shouldn't expect? Was that an outlier? Do we have metrics on wait times? Come on, back up, right? Because not everyone's going to use the app, right? So, you know, we always need to be able to respond, you know, promptly when someone's calling, right? So I want to hear, yeah.
I think one of the things that is unfortunate when we do have these long hold times, because we've had a lot of, you know, new communities that had rolled out over the last several years, you know, so unfortunately some of the residents bear the brunt of that, which is not fair. But I would say more recently, you know, we brought in new leadership in our customer service department. We're seeing abandonment rates under 8%. So normally we measure a lot of it by abandonment rates and hold times. And what we try to look at is, you know, 3 minutes or less on hold, an abandonment rate under like 5%. You know, so that is the gold standard that we look at. Unfortunately, you know, some of the negative experiences I can't take back that residents have had. All I can try to do is say, you know, objectively, I would like to make it easier for the residents to communicate with us directly. That's why I'm really excited about the app, because personally I wouldn't want to have to wait on hold at all if my garbage was missed or any issues like that came up. So moving forward, you know, what I'm trying to drive for is how do we get individuals to use technology to speak with us that way. And obviously if they're more like savvy with, you know, the old rotary dial, they can get a hold of us in a timely manner. So that is some of the disruption that residents may feel. I'm not going to say that 45 minutes I know is probably true, because we've had people come and say, I've been waiting for 45 minutes, you know. But hopefully that's the outlier, you know, where sometimes you call and you get right through. And challenging peak season of yard waste starts can be a really tough time when everybody and their brother's calling, no matter what hauler you're going to deal with. You know, so what I would want to commit to is, you know, if there were some things that you want to do to penalize us, if we can't hit a number that you're looking for, we could put that in an extent, you know, on the 2-year extension or whatever is necessary to make sure that you feel your residents have a voice, because it's not fair if they don't, you know. So I would definitely commit to that today for language to be put in there. If we can't commit or hit a hold time that's appropriate, we could face, you know, penalties on our bill or whatever. So, okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm curious to hear from my colleagues as well, but I mean, ultimately, if we're trying to figure out a plan that is the goal that I think we should be striving for is good customer service and also the best price, right? And the numbers are showing what the best price is. So that seems pretty clear, but I'm also curious what my colleagues think. So I'll turn it over to them.
Jim?
Thank you. So thank you for this presentation, and we appreciate the offer, certainly. I do want to say a couple of things. First of all, I think there are some improvements that have been made recently, and I think they're good ones. I do believe that. I think that there are some positive developments, perhaps, that we might be coming in the future, and those are interesting to hear. I will say that I'm the only member of the board that was on here when, except Vicky was here,
No,
of course. But as trustee that voted for the original LRS contract, and I can speak to a couple of things about customer service from my long-standing experience. Back in 2017, when I joined the board, I think we did this in 2021. We did see a big increase at that time, and I don't know. Again, I don't know how you measure it because there's three different buckets. There's people that call Public Works, people that call the company, and then the people that call us. And usually the people that we have to respond, and I always try to. So I'm referring to the emails we receive and calls we receive about the service, and they have been steady and they've been high. And Waste Management at the time, we'd get a few once in a while, of course, and compliments too. I think we've gotten compliments about their service and how they like their drivers, and there's some funny things. But regardless, looking back at that now, and all those years later, I do see that there was an increase. And I will say that when we talk about the number of complaints, 89% of single-family homeowners approve of the service. Well, that means 11% didn't. What does that represent? 11% of single-family homeowners. That's a number. I think there's between 25 and 28,000 single-family homeowners in the village of Oak Park.
12. There's 11,400
units.
There's 11,400 accounts.
People. Anyone can file a complaint, correct?
Anybody can
make a complaint. Right?
Oh, sure.
So it could represent, and I don't know how the numbers were calculated, but if you look at the numbers of single-family people that live in a single-family homeowner, we could have 28,000 people. 11% of that's over 3,000 people. 3,000 people is a lot of people that would potentially be a little bit concerned about the service. I think that personally, my experience of this over the years, it is time that we go out to bid. That was kind of the direction that we left it the last time. I know we had an opening for this consideration, and we certainly appreciate it, but I do think that any business owner who can avoid a bid, sometimes they'll do things, and I think these are good things, actually. But it also is time to test the market. And I understand that we hadn't done that previously in waste management. That was then, and this is now. I just would say to that. And I think we need to look at the market, test the market, see what's out there, because we have a lot of complaints that continue to come in. We talk about the carts and how the carts were a sustainability gain by not buying them, and I'm sure that's true. It's also true that someone didn't have to come up with the purchases of how many carts? 11,000?
Well, they purchased the carts from Waste Management.
But new ones as opposed to new ones. They're getting kind of old. At some time, it's like the sword of Damocles hanging over our heads when we talk about that, because at some point they are going to need to be replaced. It's just a fact. They're not going to last forever. They're aged, and it is a concern. So a couple other thoughts, and I'll be done. I would just say that I think that there comes a time in any contract where and I've been through it, and everyone who's been in business has. It just makes sense to really see what the market. We don't know as we stand here tonight, sit here tonight. We don't know what companies are really eager to get into this business, and that are the up and comers, and what companies that are status quo companies. Maybe they need to pick up a nice piece of business, and they'd like to do that by being competitive. I think the leave situation it didn't fall on LRS necessarily, but it didn't help, I think, in the beginning. I think we're just continuing to get a lot of complaints, and it concerns me. So my thought would be, to be fair, and would be to put it out to bid, as we originally said, and not to accept a renewal. I think it's incumbent on us to consider all options, and we said we would, and those would include at some point going back to the old leaf collection method or something similar to that. There is a lot of discontent with the way things are, and it just doesn't end. So I do think that it's something we should consider and weigh it out in the end through a fair and competitive bidding process. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenna?
Okay, I'm not sure I have all that much to add. When I first read through the item, I kind of thought why it wasn't clear why we wouldn't have gone out to bid, like why not? And my question was, does that risk this offer or this proposal going out to bid, and then they can?
Yeah, the village board needs to make a decision on whether or not to renew, and then if the decision is to not renew and go out to bid, then the renewal is null, and then we test the market.
Perks and yeah, okay. So that was an assumption I was sort of operating under. My other question, I'm losing my train of thought. It does seem like it's a very good deal, and staff is telling us that it's in our interest to renew, and I respect that. I have no other sort of frame other than my lived experience and the comments that we're getting from the community. I don't personally hear, other than the emails that we got in the last week or so, I am not hearing a ton of complaints. It's not really something I hear about either way, other than when we sit at this table. So I don't feel all that informed to represent the community either way. I would, I guess, like to know from my colleagues, one of the alternatives here was to put forth a friendly amendment to revise the renewal to 1 year. And does that make us, those of us who are more concerned about the disappointment in our community and the complaints that we're getting from folks in our village, to sort of like leverage a little bit to see if improvements can be made and satisfaction can be raised? Is that feeling like a compromise that works? And are there disadvantages to that I'm not maybe perceiving?
So the contract allows for one renewal of a term of 1 to 3 years. I think the village attorney could weigh in on whether or not that means that's one bite at the apple and then that's it. Mm-hmm. Or whether or not the board has the choice to kind of go 1 year, then 1 year, then 1 year. Mm-hmm. But I will say that, one of the significant benefits of a 2-year renewal and why we were making that recommendation is lining it up with the RDP process because...
Which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it says right in the agenda item, I mean, right now, through the RDP relationship, we're actually paying more for disposal than we would be if we were paying the hauler directly. So, just kind of, so we think it is in our interest, testing the market to really look at if there are opportunities when we could go to bid with a contractor where we might get a better deal for the community if we can tie both collection and disposal together, right? And we're seeing a little bit of that with LRS's commitment to holding rates flat with the renewal in year 1 if we can do a like tonnage agreement, because a lot of the cost that they have is tied up with having to go to our specific facility that we're designating that they have to take the refuse to. Mm-hmm. So if there are opportunities with a new hauler in 2 years to bid that with our understanding or flexibility with the RDP, we think that that's in the village's best interests with a 2-year. We wouldn't have that with the 1 year. We would still be operating under the existing RDP relationship, and that's what we would be committed to with that hauler at the time of bidding.
So there is still some risk for renewing for 1 year and then another consecutive year.
I don't know if the
before
attorney
that
can speak
moment.
to that specifically.
I'm reviewing the agreements as we speak, but because this issue wasn't raised prior to the meeting, I don't have an answer this second, but I will continue to look at the materials during tonight's meeting to see if we can come up with a
And if
conclusion.
that doesn't sound appealing to anyone else, like I'm fine to let the attorney not do that.
So then what I'm hearing, though, is that you do find the numbers to be conducive, or the current proposal.
Yeah, I mean, I find it all very convincing, the recommendation, the comments about the benefit over. But then again, we are also hearing that not everybody is satisfied, and some are hearing it more often than others. And so if there is some kind of other alternative to maybe with a shorter renewal period, testing the proposed improvements, and if satisfaction improves, then I don't know, a second following year might be able to sort of compromise.
All right, let's hear from Brian and Chibi. Which one would you like to go first?
I'm happy to go first.
Thank you, Brian.
This discussion has been really helpful. I at the January meeting was certainly a strong proponent of the idea of going out to bid, and I still think that, generally speaking, going through competitive bidding processes is what you want to do. I think in this current environment, I am likely to support the 2-year extension of the current agreement, and that's for a couple of reasons. I do think that 11% of residents not being satisfied with our waste hauler is higher than I'd like to see. 89% sounds like a big number, but 1 in 10 single-family homeowners means that on any given block, you've got a couple of homeowners who are unhappy with their waste management services, and that does coincide with complaints that I hear regarding trash being in the alley or broken carts. So I think that it is a significant issue. I will say I've heard some reduction in those complaints over the course of the last year or so. I would hope that that is due to process improvements that we will see ongoing as we look to going out to bid or negotiating a longer term contract in 2 years while we're also negotiating the RDP contract. I think that the cost difference between LRS and waste management at the time of the prior negotiation is substantial. And I think that the idea that in the current cost environment, LRS is going to hold our costs at a 0% increase for the first 12 months of the extension, followed by a 3% increase for the second 12 months of the extension. I think that that's pretty good. Rob, can you speak to with the increase in fuel costs that we're seeing at present, how you think that would impact a bid environment for waste hauler services? Should we go out to a competitive bid process?
Well, first, Trustee Straw, I just want to clarify one thing that you said. In year 2 of the renewal, It is a CPI, but the current agreement has a 2.5% floor, so between 2.5% and 5%. So they're committed to sticking with the CPI. They are though asking for a rise in the floor to 3%. So it would be no less than 3%. But you can see through the course of the contract the cost adjustments that have occurred historically, and they've typically, except for 2023, have fallen in that kind of 3% realm or just over that. So we were pretty satisfied to see that. Yeah, I mean, trying to price out contract.
I'm asking you to look in a crystal ball.
Yeah, I mean, and that's hard. I mean, so I just think that, yeah.
Fuel is one of the most significant costs that waste haulers have. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So I guess for me, I'm looking at we're looking at an extension that we just sort of by lucky happenstance have been engaged in negotiations over for the last 2 months, and the significant increase in fuel costs we've seen has come at the very end of that negotiations. So I think that agreeing to this extension, we get to lock in the positive happenstance that most of the negotiations occurred before that. If we go out to bid, we're going to be going out to bid in a cost climate that's going to factor in those increases in fuel costs. And when fuel and labor are the two driving costs, I think that we're gonna see much higher bids this summer unless something real surprising happens in the Strait of Hormuz. So I think that for me is one of the biggest factors that that has me tending towards this agreement. And I think it makes sense to line up the next bid cycle with the negotiation of the disposal portion of the contract, because we might be able to see some additional cost savings there.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Enya.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this. Yeah, I was going to start off by saying very similar to what Brian said about the urgency or the consistent need to go out to bid when you go through these types of processes to make sure that you're giving yourself and your, whoever you're representing, client or customers, whatever you want to call it, the best opportunity to look at what is out there and being able to test the market. And I always used to tell my clients the same thing. I want you to see what else is out there so you know how good it is of a service that we're actually offering you. And what we saw in the past and why I was super adamant on that board before was because I utilized the LRS for all of my accounts for CPS. And they were very, very quick to respond. We never really had any issues. And I noticed just, hey, when you're dealing with customer service and having to call someone over an issue of, some massive amounts of garbage being knocked over or whatever that is, and them coming back on sites was something that I noticed pretty frequently was their quick response. So fast forward, we've had this for a little bit. We've had neighbors that have had their issues, and I know that I'm not the only person who's had the issues, but I've also had great service with them too. So it's the give and take. I've got a basketball rim that gets ran into my garage all the time, so I know the issues, but I also know my basketball rim is technically over this line that it's not supposed to be over, so they can't make it through the garage or through the alley, and they politely push it back, and You know, it sucks on my end, but I also understand. That they need to access the alley the way that they need to access it. There's tons of things that I've had the same issue with putting the tag on something. I know it happens. I know that sometimes things get forgot, or they didn't see the tag, or I missed them. Any of those things can be true. So I try not to hold those things against them. I know that we've had leakage and spillage in the alleys and things when they hit the bumps, all of those type of things, and I don't know how to mitigate those type of issues. I mean, that's probably a more secure truck or whatever, but I think that a lot of the problems we would have that we do voice our concerns over would happen with other haulers too. I just think we notice them more because we've had someone switch, and the second you see something switch, you're like, well, I like how it used to be. So I do see those things, and that's why I think the competitive bid is nice, because at least you get to understand what's out there and, you know, what you might be missing out on. But I think this has kind of forced them to bring even more opportunities to Oak Park and show us better ways in which that they're becoming an even better partner with the community. And I think seeing how they work with Public Works and seeing them getting tied into the application and them being willing to adopt something that we utilize as our system and taking that on as their venture, and then him putting his word on these things, I think speaks a lot of volumes, because most people aren't going to stand up here and tell you those things. So I do appreciate, him saying that, but also being able to look at this contract to come back. I mean, I'm okay with the 2 years. I agree with Brian. I think you start to see these costs of things start to change dramatically because of the instability that's going around the country but when it comes to our gas prices. So there's going to be some significant impacts to, I think, the future. And if someone's giving you a guarantee lock on things, you kind of want to take advantage of that, because today's price is not going to be tomorrow's price. And that's where I don't want us to fall into that situation. I think you all have done a great job of showing us the issues that we've had and bringing forth the numbers to show that. And we knew that back then when Jim and Vicky and I were up here before, and being able to see just the amount of savings that was out there for Oak Parkers. That's huge, but now the savings has turned into other services that have been added onto that. They've talked about looking at the LEAF program and talked about other alternatives that they can possibly work on and still review. So I'm of the mind I'd like to not create a situation where we lose out on any of the opportunities. I'm good with the 1 year, but I think the 2 year is in line with what we need to kind of get this deal going. That's a long-winded answer, but I do appreciate all the work that's gone in this, and I didn't want to forget. Mac asked about total composting, and I wanted to know, is that something that we can even address now, or is that something that we would have to talk about later down the line?
I mean, if Trustee Eder's happy to share that information with me.
Okay. Yeah.
If you'd be, yeah, I mean, yeah, we would have to look at what is being proposed, but I think block by block, if that's what it is, composting or shared composting is a potential cost savings, but there are a lot of operational issues that would have to be worked out with that. So I don't know if that would necessarily be something that we would look to do in the next, within this 2 year time frame, but I think 2 years would give us a lot of time to build a bid together for a possible option like that to be included in an RFP, in 2028 as kind of an option for universal composting.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to just see what that looks like. I agree we run into some issues sometimes of underutilizing. Obviously, the smaller bins would be a good alternative and help. But also, like, sometimes people have little to nothing or nothing in those bins, and sometimes I just tell my neighbors, like, use my bin, please. I am not going to get this thing full. So trying to figure out just better ways to do this that are not only cost effective, but also, better for our environment in the long haul. So.
Craig.
Great, thank you. So I was able to review the agreement from 2022 and confirm that any renewal requires the agreement of both the village and LRS. So to Trustee Leving-Jacobson's question about whether or not it's possible to have a one-year renewal and then another one-year renewal after that, if the village and LRS agree, it's possible, just like any other renewal term is possible, so long as there's mutual agreement.
All right. Derek.
Yeah, I appreciate this conversation. I think just to make it clear, I'm comfortable with a 2-year renewal at this point, based on the conversation, and for the potential savings that it sounds like we may really be able to benefit from regarding fuel costs. And thank you, GB, for bringing up max composting. I still wanted to see it happen, so that's a +1 to looking into that. And if we need that time to figure out a plan about how we could make that happen, knowing that we're at a certain percent now, and I know there's a tipping point kind of moment, but I'm impatient when it comes to these things, so I would love to see that accelerated if possible. That's it.
Okay, so yeah, Rob, Village Manager Jackson, whoever, so it sounds like there's a will of the board to approve this contract tonight, or at least a 2-year extension. If there are then, at any point in these 2 years, opportunities to make changes, like changing our composting program, do we have to wait? Or is there any way of working?
No, just like the change in the LEAF program in 2024, it just needs to be a mutual agreement and a negotiated change order to the contract. So, yes, if that was something that was the will of the board over the next couple of years, it would be a conversation with the board and the staff, and as long as LRS is in agreement and negotiate, an appropriate term, I think it would be allowed.
All right, because I would definitely support reviewing the information from MAC and seeing what opportunities there are to implement or at least have a discussion around it. Oh no, please, why don't you go ahead now?
Well, before we vote, I do want to say a couple of things. So, first of all, Rob, have you talked to Mac? Have you guys exchanged? I'm just curious. I don't want to get.
We've talked on a number of issues. I don't think I've seen the specific offer or the specific program around this composting program.
No, I like Mac. He's a smart guy. He knows what he's talking about. So it would be good to at some point we all on the same page on that, because I think it offers a lot of benefits, and he's helped us before numerous times. So I appreciate that, Mac. Thank you. A couple thoughts, and I see the direction of the board, but I want to say a couple things. You don't hear me say this often. It's not frequent, but cost isn't everything. It doesn't happen, and I want to say that. The reason
switching cars.
So the reason I say that is because this service, as you all know, and just think about it for a second, I'm just asking you to think, it touches every resident in the village pretty much in a very personal way, because we all have to bring our trash out. We all have to pick up the garbage. We all have to deal with the broken containers and the damage to the property if that exists. And it's all on us. And so there are a few things in our village that we really have that touch, right? And the other things are less so, like the condition of our streets, the potholes, the quality of the snow plowing. Those are the things, and Rob knows this. But this one really touches a lot of people in a big, big way. So I think your experience, Rob, is, and this is, I don't know the right word, ambulant, the way you describe the relationship. And I don't doubt you. I think I'm sure you have a really great relationship. But the residents that elected us don't feel that same way. They don't feel the same way. They feel differently. And they're concerned, and they're burdened by this. And they wanted us to see a bid process. I would say, and not to, we're talking about cost and cost savings. This is something we've just talked about when we I don't want to rehash something, but we approved, or we gave direction to build a new council chambers, and the cost with that. I said, gee, that's an awful lot. It's millions of dollars extra. We really don't need it, but we decide that cost is okay, but this cost is unacceptable because it's how many dollars per month extra. There's a difference there, and I think those both impact us. They're both big costs that we have to deal with. I think we should be consistent on that, and that maybe there's different reasons, but I see that as a potential. And finally, the last thing I'll say is, I think approving this tonight in the way that this came forward, and I'm not faulting anyone. It was a proposal. It came forward. It was noticed on the agenda. I think the vast majority of our residents have no idea, and the people that may have had a feeling about they don't like this, they don't watch every agenda. Some people do, and they obviously learned of this through a Facebook page, but the vast majority have no idea this is coming, and you'll be unleashing the floodgates of hell when you approve this, because people are going to be flat-footed when it comes to trying to understand that, and we're going to have to deal with the fallout. There will be a lot of people upset that we didn't touch here tonight because the process was truncated, and I'm not saying it's inappropriate or anything, but it was short, and they don't know about it. So anytime we see that happen in this village, we get a lot of pushback, and so if you want to vote for this, I think we're going to have to deal with a lot of pushback for a long time, because it can take a long time to convince residents that things are suddenly different. So I will leave it at that. Thank you for allowing me to say that. Appreciate it.
Of course.
When does the app go active? Like for the response from the LRS?
The app go active?
Yeah.
Yes.
When does the
Well, I know
the
our
is
app is active on our end.
They're already using it.
Okay, so
Yeah, we've been using
this
it for the
can be
last month.
something like for residents, I think, when they're the discontent, especially, I think, knowing that the app is up and something hopefully we can advertise if we can through the village website. I think, like Trustee is saying, I think that is a huge thing, because they will be upset, but I want them to have some recourse, and I think, even the neighbor here today, I mean, you want to be able to, after a 45-minute wait, vent to somebody. Trust me, I know the feeling. So to not be able to voice that frustration, I think, can be a problem. But I think if there is an app that already shows, like, hey, here's my problem. You're telling me there's an ETA of 5 days now. I want to see resolution. And now we have someone we can vent to once we get to that point. Because I agree, customer service is everything at that point. And Trustee Taglia's been seeing our emails. We've been getting them already from people who didn't know and just found out.
So, Corey?
Okay, reading the tea leaves here. I would, to Trustee Levin Jacobson's earlier point about the 1-in-1, I would support a 2-year with a 1-year opt-out based on certain SLA targets, with the addition of performance guarantees and service credits implemented into the contract, so that we can create that accountability for our residents that LRS is already interested in helping us create anyway, so that if the service doesn't hit the levels of expectation, then we have a 1-year opt-out where we can then go out to bid.
What's the cancellation policy on the contract?
Yeah, so the village may terminate the current contract on 5 days' notice with cause, or 14 days' notice for convenience. Of course, if the village is going to terminate, then you got to have someone ready to pick up the refuse 5 to 14 days later.
All right, so I think that has us covered, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So how long were we contracted with Waste Management?
Just around 24 years. I think.
Okay.
24, 25 years.
So what I want to do is affirm that the complaints that we've received, including tonight and in our email, have been fairly significant. And, that we've all seen that garbage ends up floating down our streets with the use of an automatic arm. This might seem a little silly, I am just going to encourage folks to bag their entire garbage. I think that does help. If that's your end goal, then making sure you have everything in a bag is gonna that's just something we can all do for ourselves and the beauty of our community and our streets. And so, you know, I want, yeah, like I said, I want to affirm that that those complaints has been there and consistent. But it does take a long time for such a major service as our garbage, which, to Jim's point, is what that's what our residents are expecting from us. You know, streets, alleys, sewer, basic services. Everything else that we do, we have a very supportive community who really seem to be aligned with all that our major goals, but that's our responsibility. I am going to support this 2-year renewal, but I do want to really take seriously the holding LRS accountable to continuing to improve that customer service, because even though the numbers look great, Jim's other point that there are several different ways that people complain. When you had waste management for a long time, they got used to just calling one place, and all of them, the data's in one place. But now you've got people calling us and maybe not you, or straight to our LRS and not getting an answer and maybe letting it die. So I don't know if we know exactly where our data is, where we're comparing it consistently. I think the app is great. I think we should do as much as we can to publicize that. I didn't know it existed and probably should have. So and so I do think we need to have some outcome, some expectations in the contract, written into the contract about that 5-day response time. Obviously, there's going to be a couple of times when things happen and you might not meet it, so all within reason. But if staff can work on some reasonable expectations that are written into the contract, so that if for some reason we found ourselves needing to make some changes, we have that measurement, or we at least have that measurement that justifies the continual renewal. And because I do think these relationships take time to build, and I do typically appreciate the benefit of going out to RFP, especially since we as a community want to diversify those people that we do work with as a community, and buying local. Our relationships with printing companies and this and that, if we can keep our dollars as much as possible in the community. I don't mean to be off topic, but I'm just taking advantage of the opportunity to say that out loud. And that even if it means a few cents more, it's in town. But this is not the kind of contract where our community is going to see us ever reach that level of service if we're continually every 2 or 3 years renewing it, because that's just what it takes to get that up to speed with something this size. And I hope our community hears that we're looking for that serious accountability and improving customer service, but our job is also to inclusive of recognizing that fact. You don't just change garbage for a community of 55,000 people and expect that you're not going to have complaints. We didn't have this electronic arm before, which I think people had to get used to, and it is a source of also the breaking of containers as well. But we have an electric truck, and that's not something that others have we would hope that those opportunities for newer and better equipment continue with our investment. I fully want to keep our options open on expanding composting for all. And I will also say that, 2 years ago, I did vote no on the leaf change program, and I was quite frustrated through the whole program because it felt like we didn't take the time to study it, and maybe if we had taken a little more time to study it and have that on, then, you know, we might have had a little less frustration. And so I'm hoping that that lesson for all of us was learned and would ask Clerk Waters to please take the roll.
President Scaven, trustee members, and this is for Rob and LRS. Before we close this out, does LRS have any commentary or perspective to offer on composting as it's been raised tonight?
I consider an ongoing conversation, but yes, please, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, I haven't seen this proposal that was discussed. I think one of the things that is a benefit that really wasn't touched on just very briefly was the opportunity for residents to use yard waste bags in the off-season. So, you know, if you look at individuals that, you know, may not want to go to the full composting program today, they would then be able to participate in the off-season now with a sticker, which I don't know the exact price, but I think about $3 or so. $3.25. So again, then it's like, you know, what I used to do at home in the city was put my compost bin in the freezer, and that would last until I have to bring it to work in Maywood for a couple weeks. Just don't forget it in the back of your car when it's 95 degrees.
Note to self.
But that's how I did it back then, so maybe they could then potentially, you know, have access that way. But obviously, you know, we're open to that conversation. Biggest thing I think we've mentioned before is, you know, if we go curbside our composting for all, you know, that many carts is a big capital investment. That's why we want to start with 100 at a different size to just kind of gauge the level of interest with kind of the shorter window that we have. So we want to be your partner for the short term and the long term.
Thank you.
Too many mics.
Yeah, I know. You got a little more room.
Yeah. So one of the things for
Don't tempt him.
one of the things for the composting for all is that it reduced the number of containers needed because it was assuming that everyone wouldn't have one. It would just be like one per block or alley, so to speak. So that would reduce the number of containers for the investment. Just wanted to point that out. The 325, the sticker, right, the yard waste, and how do you guys know that there's yard waste to pick up? Or is it like, does the truck driver who's driving for regular waste, does he cite one and then call it in and then someone come back? Or
No, so that was part of the conversations that we had in between January and now. And actually, I mean, it even went as far back as kind of the fall leaf collection program and being able to offer residents the ability through March to get leaves picked up. Is we were asking LRS if, based on the current number of participants in the compost program, if they were really already basically driving every alley in town to service the compost customers. And so they pulled their routing and looked at it, and I think they discovered that they probably with little change, they were able to send the compost truck every week or every other week. It was going through every alley in town. So at that point, there's no need. You have a compost driver that's driving that block anyway, and we'll pick up any bags that are stickered. They committed to that as part of this agreement moving forward, that there is no more kind of yard waste season. They will pick up those bags year round because they are in all of those alleys anyway, servicing compost customers.
got it. Okay, so that actually brings this and the composting for all kind of proposal a lot closer together, truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, I think
seen yet. But.
Yeah, but I think, you know, we're all kind of trying to strive towards some sort of universal composting model. What that looks like may be different, but I think everybody is trying to find ways to incentivize and make it easier for people to compost so that we can get to some sort of tipping point, one way or another, where we're kind of addressing that 30% ending up in our landfill that should be ending up in compost. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's all I have, President Scaven. Well, I'm just curious, are we voting on a 2-year extension or one with an opt-out or 1 and 1? That's the only.
2 years.
Okay.
2 years. What we have in the contract allows us to cancel at any time if we need to. We can make the choice by direction to staff to provide information if we felt like we needed to close it sooner. So I don't see, unless, I mean, it's the will of the board here, but currently the motion is 2 years.
Okay, and is that with any of the service credits and performance guarantees or no?
The motion doesn't completely include that at this point. We could have a friendly amendment, right? Would I need the friendly amendment, or can I trust that staff is going to work with ILRS? I think we have a willing partner here in that.
Yeah, I'm going to have Greg speak to the amendment, the potential for the amendment, but if there's a need for us to go back and actually evaluate potential performance standards and incorporate them into the contract, that means that we would have to bring the contract back because the contract's on the agenda tonight.
Right.
So we need to spend time working with LRS to negotiate those standards.
Can we approve in lieu of, and trust that that relationship is happening?
You mean like define them tonight and actually?
No,
oh.
just
Direct
because
staff to work with LRS
to work with
define.
LRS and approve it. I don't know, is the word contingent upon? Just basically direct staff to do that work as part of the motion.
It's possible for the board to do that, but the board would have to take subsequent action to approve whatever those standards are. So, I think if the board is interested, two options for the board. Either approve the 2-year extension tonight and direct staff to work with LRS and try to bring something back to implement the kinds of things that Trustee Wesley and others are talking about, or don't approve the extension tonight and tell staff to work with LRS and then bring back the 2-year amendment with the standards included in it for a singular vote.
Well, first, do we have enough will at the board, interested amongst the board to actually see those in the contract?
I'd like to see them, yeah.
No?
I mean, me.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, yes.
All right.
Sorry, I thought that one was without saying.
Brian, how about you?
I would love to see us incorporate some service standards into the contract, including service standards around wait time for bin replacement and the time it takes to resolve any complaints of property damage. I would prefer to move forward with approving the contract with that negotiation ongoing, given that LRS has stated it would be a willing partner. My only concern is, I believe our next board meeting is in late April. And as a result, if we don't approve tonight and we table for further negotiation, I wonder whether
I think we get your...
whether there's a risk that the economics of the agreement change.
Okay, so I think Village Manager Jackson might have a solution for us, but I'm going to add in so you can answer all at once.
Okay.
Can we approve the contract and have that be an amendment to the contract when you bring forward the standards? So we approve it as is tonight, and then we ask for staff to bring an amendment with those.
Yes.
Okay, then I would suggest that. Very good. Okay. So we are taking the roll with the contract as is with as 2 years, and then we'll expect to see sometime in the near future that slight amendment with those additions. Okay? Clerk Waters, please take the roll.
Trustee Wesley,
Yes.
Trustee Levin Jacobson,
Yes.
Trustee Eder,
Yes.
Trustee Enya,
Yes.
Trustee Straw,
Yes.
Trustee Taglia,
No.
and President Skaman.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations. Look forward to the ongoing relationship. We trust that you're hearing us, and I do believe that. And we have one more motion on the board agenda this evening. A motion by trustee Eder and seconded by trustee Wesley for staff to perform a comparative analysis of building permits within and outside of our historic districts. Shall I turn this straight over to trustee Eder?
Yes, and staff is here to answer any questions. I will say that we understand the request, and we believe that the request could be completed within the next 3 weeks or so. So that's our perspective on it.
Very good.
If you want to explain it.
Jump in. Thank you. I appreciate this. So this is for everyone else's context. A few weeks ago, we heard from a presentation on historic preservation from members of the Historic Preservation Commission, and that led to many more questions that I had. So I'm coming at this from a perspective of just wanting to learn more. Now, I'm not against historic districts or historic preservation, but I think it's important to, they serve an important function of maintaining our landmarks and our history. But just like any policy tool, they can be dialed in too much in one direction or another. And so I want to use this opportunity to collect as much data as we can to understand how these districts have been impacting our village, the 3 historic districts that exist, and see how they're aligning with our own board goals, especially around affordability. So in my email that I'd sent to the board and to staff, I'd asked a number of questions. I'm particularly interested in learning about permitting and the impacts of permitting inside and outside of these historic districts, comparing them to the rest of the village. Is it helpful to read the questions that I have? Okay, excellent. So we have the City View contract or platform, which we just renewed that program tonight for another year, and that's where all of our building permits are handled through. And I would like to have the staff do an analysis of those permits. I would like to know for each of the 3 historic districts, how much time on average does it take to get a building permit approved, and how does that compare to the rest of the village? For each of the 3 historic districts, how much does each property spend on average for building permits and associated improvements / projects compared to the rest of the village? And do we see fewer or more permits in historic districts compared to the rest of the village? And then what kinds of permits are being sought in historic districts compared to the rest of the village? So I really am interested, and I'm also curious to hear if my colleagues have any other queries along those lines about how permits are being sought in these different areas. I also think, to the degree possible, it seems like this is data we should already be analyzing just to know how the village is doing. Maybe we already know it, so hopefully that's, like as you mentioned, Village Manager Jackson, a relatively straightforward lift for staff. I'm also interested in the demographics of these areas. There's, based on research that's been done in other communities, I think Los Angeles has some studies that have been done there. There is a working theory that historic districts have kept Black and minority families out and can increase the cost of housing and maintenance and can add barriers to development. So I am curious about the demographics of these districts as they compare to the village. What are the racial demographics? What are the age demographics? And also, how has that changed over time? These 3 districts have been, I think the Frank Lloyd Wright district was established in the 80s, and then the Ridgeland and the Gunderson districts have come later. And they've also, I believe Frank Lloyd Wright has expanded at least once, potentially, so it's grown. And I know the Gunderson is now 2, it used to be 1. So I'm curious to know how the demographics of those districts have changed over time, and see how that compares to the rest of the village, and see how it maps to the trends that we're seeing. As we talked about at the top of this meeting, we live in a changing village, right? There are changing demographics, and we have seen a loss of our Black population in Oak Park over the years. And I'm curious to see the impact that potentially historic districts may or may not have in regards to that. And I'll also say, to that point, I'm also willing to be, I want to follow where the data goes. So we could, if the data shows that, hey, this has no impact whatsoever, great. I am happy to accept that conclusion. But I worry that the decisions that we're thinking about when it comes to historic preservation so far have been feels like very vibes based, like it's good and there's some data that we got in the presentation a few weeks ago, but I think it just for me raised more questions. So I want to just make sure that we're looking at all the data and using all the tools that we have to evaluate this thing that's a very important part of the character of Oak Park. So I'll leave it at that. I don't know if Corey, you want to add anything else to it?
Man, you were pretty good. So yeah, I mean, you did a pretty good summary of a lot of the stuff that I was concerned about too. Just there, we've got these 3 historic districts, and curious of how they operate internally versus how the rest of the village operates externally from a number of different dimensions, including the ones that you already outlined.
And I'll also say if there's anything else my colleagues are also interested in asking, I think it's probably efficient for staff to do it all at once as opposed to piecemeal. But yeah, I'm curious if folks have their own thoughts.
I appreciate Go ahead, Brian.
I think it's implicit in those questions, but obviously I think that it would be helpful to include include sort of a rest of Oak Park, the non-historic districted parts of Oak Park as a comparative for each of those data sets that that Trustee Eder requested. I also this might just be sort of rewording the do we see more or fewer permits. I think it would be useful to see the rate sort of per 1,000 houses that we're seeing people pull permits for each of the historic districts versus the rest of Oak Park, because you have the costs that are built into getting a the time it takes and the cost of getting a permit approved, but you also have folks who might sort of log in, start to look at the requirements of pulling a permit and just decide it isn't worth it. And so I think it would be helpful to us to see whether there is some decrease in the rate of doing construction tasks or getting permits for construction tasks if one lives in a historic district. And I guess I would urge staff who are undertaking this analysis, like I often find if I'm doing a data project or I'm doing any kind of research, I may notice something in the data that isn't directly responsive to a question asked, but sort of goes along with what we're asking here. And so I'd ask that this be sort of a slightly more open-ended question that sort of any other trends related to related to home improvement in the historic districts versus outside of the historic districts that the board ought to consider.
Yeah, agree with all that. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, go ahead.
I think this is a good discussion, and I appreciate it. I think it's important to get this information, but and there's different reasons for it that I'm going to touch on. But there's a saying that's been said in business about having it's something like the peanut and the pyramid, and this seems like and I'm not trying to talk down about it at all, but it's the peanut right? And the pyramid is what we do and all the other things that we do in our village that create unaffordability. This is it's an important thing. I don't disagree. But it's a small thing relative to all the other things that we do. And I just think it's something to consider in the overall picture, that we go after these things about affordability when some of the bigger things, I won't mention it. I won't talk about the council chambers again.
Right, I'm
But
going with the flow.
no, seriously. But there are things. So there are a lot of elements to this, and
Yeah.
this is an important one. But there are other ones too. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing it up, and I think we should flesh it out and consider everything. Obviously,
Yeah.
always.
And
always.
I'd love if the data comes back and it is not having an impact,
Right.
and the
It's
data
good to know.
shows that,
Well, it's
that's very important information for us
I
all
agree.
to know.
Totally
So
agree.
I'm willing to
with
see
you.
where the data leads us. Yes.
Totally. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll just note that I don't know if I've been to a board meeting in a while where I haven't seen somebody almost trip. And and somehow my because we were talking about like whether or not to Village Hall. My kneecap is suddenly bothering me, and those stairs really are not fun when your kneecap is bothering you.
The elevator.
That?
The lift.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Just being a good sport, that's all. No, so I just appreciate the way that it was brought forward. We know that sometimes our questions can require then a lot of staff time to respond to. It's important for us to digest that and to understand. You know, I think even for our community at large too, I've said this before, but the perception that we have like a full army that works behind us to answer all of our questions is not really accurate. Many of our departments are just a handful of people, and they get just as many emails every day as we do, if not more, that interrupt their regular workload. And for us to then consciously, then make it a group decision that this is something we want our staff to talk about you, but you've also put the work into recognizing its value, and I think it's going to lead to some very important conversation. And so, thank you for that. Anything that you would want us to know or share while we're here, and it's not even 9 o'clock yet? Oh, is it? It's 9:37. All right.
No, I think we have all the information we need to prepare the analysis. So, like Village Manager Jackson stated, it should take us about 3 weeks to kind of fully dive it in, get a conclusive report.
Thank you. Well, you know what? I'm just going to put this out there. April 21 looks like it's getting pretty busy.
Happy to receive it as an email.
There we go. That works too. We do know how to read.
Yes. Oh, and one last thought is I did do a little bit of the demographic analysis myself using census data. If that's at all useful for you to use, you're welcome to use it. But I also value the staff's doing its own independent study of that data just to make sure it's all coming from the same place.
All right, excellent. Can I also use this opportunity to say that it's, for some reason, I'm receiving some feedback on the Optico study that we're not putting the same level of attention into studying a housing for people with disabilities as a need that was in the 2024 report. So I'll just put that into the universe, that I do care about that. And even if it does require some additional work down the road. So, thank you.
Yep.
All in. Okay, so
Did you roll?
we can do all in favor for this kind of motion, correct?
Was the motion actually reiterated at the board table? I believe the matter was just introduced.
Just
So
looking
if
at the wording real quick. It is well, you tell me, it's a motion.
Right, but I guess my question was, did Trustee Eder and Trustee Wesley make and second the motion at the meeting this evening, or did it just come through email?
It came through
protocol?
email.
Right, so if you'd like the formality of having the motion made, second, and passed, that's possible.
Okay, I can read the motion. Okay, so I motion staff to perform a comparative analysis of building permits within and outside of our historic districts.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then, thank you. And so call to board and clerk. Clerk Waters, any comments this evening?
No, just that the Women's History event this past weekend that was held at the Art Studio on South Boulevard was phenomenal. It was a really great space that just welcomed so many community members, both those who we know and attend our events regularly, but then also some new faces. And so it was just, it was a really good event put on by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office. So thank you.
Thank you, agreed. Trustee Enya?
Just really quick, we were honoring Arab American Heritage Month earlier today. Just a heads up, the village not the village, actually the library will be hosting on the 31st through the 26th in the Idea Box. Dima, who was up here presenting, will be hosting a special curation of Arab American Heritage Month, which she's been doing, as she said before, for a number of years, and we're honored to have her doing that again. I was looking online, but I can't find the date for the event that they'll have at the library too. Stay tuned. Sorry for that.
Shout out to staff for navigating that LRS conversation really well. I expected it to be a lot more contentious, and then that's just because of the contentiousness that I've experienced dealing with folks in the community around this issue. I felt like we navigated this really well and came to a really good a solution. So kudos to that. I would suggest maybe we do a waste management open house. We've got technology now that helps alleviate some of the major
LRS
issues.
open house?
Oh, yeah. Sure. An LRS garbage. I mean, it was right. Like, whatever the case, right? Like, just we've got tech out there now that helps folks kind of alleviate a lot of the customer service issues that I've heard them experience over the last couple of years. Making folks aware of that and teaching them how to use it, I think, would be really good. An open house might be a good way of doing that. I wanted to speak to your point too about aging in our community, President Skaman, right? Like Mr. Middle has always been about housing diversity as well as more housing, right? And so I just want to put that out there that the idea of Missing Middle is to ensure that people have the appropriate housing for their stage in life, and not just that we have a lot more housing, right? So it's about having a lot more of the right types of housing to encourage folks to be able to age in their community so that they don't have to uproot their lives after their kids go off to college so that they can, pay for college, or, when they get older and they get tired of stairs, they don't have to leave because they can't find a housing unit with that's a walk-in or has an elevator. So I just wanted to validate that as well. And say lastly that I completely and totally, and I didn't say this during the LRS portion, but I completely and totally support composting for all. In case that hasn't come across before, I've said it plenty of times in the past. Just want to be on the record of saying it again.
Before I go to this side, I'll go to Brian.
I'll pass.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thanks, Jim.
I just want to say that I think, again, there's a lot of people that don't know about this LRS discussion. I appreciate the good work. Staff did a good job in preparing and presenting, but I don't think people I think there will be a lot of people very surprised in the next few weeks. But I will say also, just from our last discussion about the fines and how we're going to do for the Sustainability Fund, I had made the mention about potentially using, and I think we were going to look into that, the fines from the ticketing to go toward the Sustainability Fund potentially. And I just want to make sure that was attached to what is going to come back eventually, like an analysis or a discussion about that. So very good. Thank you. That's all I need. Thank you.
I was reflecting on our proclamations this evening and just how important it is that we spend the time to give visibility to two communities that are under severe violent attacks in our country. And just how important it is to celebrate our neighbors, our trans and non-binary, gender non-conforming neighbors, members of the Arab American community, and just recognize that these are folks who either, according to experts, the trans community is close to being targets of genocide given the violence that they are being targeted with by the administration, as well as, you know, our neighbors who have family in parts of the world that are either experiencing genocide or increased violence with, you know, bombs and weapons paid for by our tax dollars. And so it's a complicated but really important gesture. And I appreciate that we do these proclamations, but I feel like it's a good starting point, and to be equally intentional with how we engage with our neighbors who are, you know, facing this kind of marginalization. So I love all of our trans siblings and our Arab American siblings, and I'm glad that we spent some time honoring them tonight.
Yes, totally agree. I'm grateful that we spent the time for both of those motions tonight. I will just thank Mac again for continuing to show up to our board meetings and his diligence around advocating for composting. I did share that document with his presentation that was, I believe, presented to the Energy and Environment Commission in 2022. So he's been at it for a while. So I appreciate coming back here, and I think, I don't know, it sounds like maybe there's enough consensus at this table for something to happen here. So I am very optimistic about what we can accomplish here on this vision that you've had for a number of years now. So I will leave it at that. Oh, happy birthday, Jenna.
Yes. To you. To you. Dear Jenna. Happy birthday to you. Oh, you thought you were getting out of it.
That's incredibly sweet.
Thank you. There's nowhere else I would rather
You didn't like this quartet?
I will refrain. Some of my colleagues, happy birthday. Yes, happy birthday. Okay, so I will also thank, I really appreciate that you stuck out the whole meeting. That was the inside joke. Sorry, I'll tell you later. Yes, you do. But no, for all the partnership with Dima and Faisal and Melissa and everyone and with PFLAG and Opelga, I'm now out with purpose. I'm very, very grateful for their partnership working with us so that we can continue to be bigger and better and stronger together and inclusive and thoughtful. But April is Earth Month, so nice opportunity for, you know, and I just said LRS since our last partner was Waste Management. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah. And I know we typically have some events around that too. So a good opportunity to share tonight some of the information and the expansion of the contract. I think there's probably a lot more, you know, I hope you don't miss us too much. You've got almost a full month without us. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. Time to adjourn. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.